Historic firsts. You folks are about to witness a historic first. So you're right. Your wager, $2,800. $30,000 today, and now a total of $2,006,300.
Most people know Ken Jennings as the man who won 75 consecutive games on Jeopardy. But here's what they don't know. Everything changed when the games ended. His victory didn't just bring him fame and fortune. It brought pressure, criticism, and personal challenges that would transform his entire life. In just a few years, Ken Jennings went from an ordinary trivia enthusiast to a household name. But was he ready for what came next? Stick around to discover what really happened to Ken Jennings after that record-breaking winning streak ended. It was November 2004 when Ken Jennings first appeared on the set of Jeopardy. Like thousands of other contestants before him, he was a quiet, intelligent software engineer from Seattle. Nobody expected him to change television history. Nobody predicted that his ordinary appearance and humble demeanor would attract millions of viewers. And nobody could have imagined that this single contestant would become one of the most talked about personalities in American television. But that's exactly what happened. Ken Jennings wasn't your typical game show champion. He wasn't loud or arrogant. He didn't celebrate with dramatic fist pumps or wild interviews. He was thoughtful, articulate, and genuinely curious about knowledge itself. And America loved him for it. What started as a normal episode of Jeopardy turned into something unprecedented. Ken Jennings kept winning, and winning, and winning. Night after night, episode after episode, he answered questions about history, science, literature, and pop culture with impressive accuracy and calm confidence. By the end of his run, Ken Jennings had won 75 consecutive games. This wasn't just a new record. It was a historic achievement that seemed impossible to break. Before Ken, the previous champion had won 45 games. Nobody had come close to what he accomplished. His winnings reached $2.6 million, making him one of the richest Jeopardy champions in the show's history. But the money was almost secondary to the fame and attention he received. Suddenly, Ken Jennings wasn't just a trivia enthusiast anymore. He was a celebrity. News outlets covered his story. Late-night comedians made jokes about his performance. Social media, which was just beginning to explode at that time, was filled with discussions about his incredible knowledge and unique personality. Fans approached him on the street. Media companies wanted him for interviews and appearances. Book publishers were interested in his story. The quiet software engineer from Seattle had become a national phenomenon overnight. Ken's success during this period was remarkable not just because of his winning streak, but because of how he conducted himself. He never bragged. He never acted like he was superior to other contestants. He simply answered the questions and moved on to the next one. His humility and genuine love of trivia made him relatable to millions of viewers who had watched Jeopardy for decades. For most people, winning $2.6 million and becoming a celebrity would be a dream come true. But for Ken Jennings, success created an unexpected problem. He had to figure out who he was beyond Jeopardy. The spotlight was intense. Everyone wanted to know everything about him. What was his childhood like? How did he learn so much? Did he study for the show? Was he comfortable with his new fame? Did he plan to return to Jeopardy? Someday, Ken was forced to make decisions about his career, his privacy, and his public image. He had to decide whether he would lean into his celebrity status or try to maintain his normal life. He had to choose between opportunities that came with massive success and a quieter path of his previous software engineering career. If you ever watched Ken Jennings' winning streak, you remember where you were during those episodes. Comment below and tell us. Were you cheering him on, or were you hoping someone would finally defeat him? Let's see what viewers remember. His fame was growing every day. But Ken had no idea what challenges awaited him on the other side of that success. Winning Jeopardy made Ken Jennings famous, but it also created enormous expectations about who he should be and what he should do next. People expected him to be a certain type of person. They thought his intelligence should extend to every area of his life. They imagined he would have answers for everything. Some fans became obsessed with him. Others became critical, looking for any sign of weakness or mistake. This is when Ken faced one of his biggest challenges, managing sudden fame while trying to stay true to himself. The media loved creating stories about him. Some headlines were positive, celebrating his achievement and intelligence. Other coverage was less kind. Some people criticized him for various reasons: his appearance, his sense of humor, his choices after leaving Jeopardy. Ken realized that being famous meant he couldn't please everyone. Someone would always have an opinion about him, whether it was fair or not. His privacy was affected too. He couldn't go to the grocery store without being recognized. He couldn't enjoy a quiet dinner without someone asking for an autograph or a photo. The simple pleasures of everyday life became complicated when you were a television personality. After his Jeopardy run ended, Ken faced a critical question: what comes next? He had several options. He could return to software engineering. He could pursue television opportunities. He could write books. He could travel and make appearances. He could do nothing and simply enjoy his winnings. This decision was harder than it seemed. Ken wasn't just choosing career. He was deciding what his life would look like for the next decade. Would he be defined forever as the guy who won 75 games on Jeopardy? Or could he build a broader identity that went beyond that single achievement? He started exploring different opportunities. He made television appearances on various shows. He considered hosting positions. He worked on writing projects. He participated in trivia competitions and special Jeopardy events. Each opportunity came with its own set of pressures and expectations. Some of these ventures succeeded. Others didn't work out the way he hoped. Ken learned quickly that being good at Jeopardy didn't automatically make you good at everything else. Success in one area doesn't guarantee success in other areas. He also faced criticism in ways he hadn't expected. Some people said he was cashing in on his fame. Others criticized his hosting abilities. Some viewers felt he should stick to competing rather than trying new roles. Ken had to learn how to handle criticism gracefully while still believing in himself. Behind the scenes, Ken was struggling. He had achieved something incredible on Jeopardy, but that single achievement was threatening to define his entire existence. He worried that people would only see him as a trivia champion, not as a complete person with diverse interests, talents, and dimensions. This is a challenge that many celebrities face, but it was particularly intense for Ken because his fame was so specific. He wasn't famous for being an actor or musician or athlete. He was famous for being really good at trivia. That's a narrow definition of celebrity, and Ken felt confined by it. He experienced periods of doubt. Was his career sustainable? Would people still be interested in him in 5 years? 10 years? What if his moment of fame was temporary? What if he was always defined by those 75 games? These weren't just career concerns. They were deep, personal questions about identity and self-worth. Ken had to figure out who he was apart from his greatest achievement. That process was painful and complicated. It required him to step back from the spotlight sometimes and reflect on what really mattered to him. What do you think? Can a person ever escape being defined by one major achievement? Have you experienced this in your own life? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear from you. Ken Jennings realized he couldn't just live off his Jeopardy achievement forever. He needed to build a more sustainable career that offered variety, creativity, and personal fulfillment. This realization led him to explore multiple avenues. He started writing. Ken wrote books that expanded beyond simple trivia facts. He wrote about his experience on Jeopardy, sharing behind-the-scenes stories and insights that fans found fascinating. His books were well received, proving that people were interested in his perspective and personality, not just his trivia knowledge. He also ventured into podcast production and digital media. Ken recognized that the media landscape was changing. Television wasn't the only platform where celebrities could build their brand and connect with audiences. Digital platforms offered more flexibility and direct connection with fans. He started podcasts where he could discuss trivia, popular culture, and other interesting topics in a more conversational format. These digital projects allowed Ken to be himself in ways that traditional television sometimes didn't. He could be funny, thoughtful, and authentic without the pressure of performing for a massive studio audience. He could interact with fans on a more personal level. He could explore ideas that genuinely interested him, rather than conforming to what network executives thought would work. Beyond writing and podcasting, Ken also worked as a consultant for various trivia-related projects. He helped develop questions for trivia competitions. He advised television producers on game show concepts. He participated in special Jeopardy! Tournaments and events that celebrated the show's history and culture. This consultant work was important because it allowed Ken to stay connected to the trivia world he loved while building a career that wasn't dependent on him constantly being in the public eye. He could work behind the scenes, contributing his expertise and knowledge in ways that were meaningful but less demanding than hosting a major television show. Ken also became a mentor to younger trivia enthusiasts and potential game show contestants. He understood the Jeopardy! Experience in a way that few people did, and he was willing to share that knowledge with others. This mentorship role gave him a sense of purpose beyond his own career success. Throughout this period, Ken was learning valuable lessons about himself. He discovered that he enjoyed creative work. He found satisfaction in helping others. He realized that his expertise could be applied to many different projects, not just competing on Jeopardy! Then came a pivotal moment that would change everything again. In 2020, Alex Trebek, the legendary host of Jeopardy! Passed away. His death created a void in the show that seemed impossible to fill. Alex had been the face of Jeopardy! For more than 30 years. He was iconic, beloved, and irreplaceable. When Jeopardy! Producers began searching for a new host, Ken Jennings' name was immediately in the conversation. After all, he was the most famous Jeopardy! Champion in the show's modern history. He understood the show's culture and values. He had the respect of longtime fans and viewers. But Ken wasn't sure if he wanted the job. He had built a career outside of Jeopardy! He had proven to himself and others that he was more than a trivia champion. Taking the hosting job meant stepping back into the Jeopardy! Spotlight in a major way. It meant that his primary identity, once again, would be connected to the show. Still, Ken also recognized this as an opportunity. Hosting Jeopardy! Wasn't just about competing. It was about being steward of something historic and beloved. It was about honoring Alex Trebek's legacy while creating something new. It was about using his platform to celebrate knowledge, curiosity, and the power of learning. We're about to reveal what happened when Ken made his decision about hosting Jeopardy! This is a turning point in his story. Stay with us to find out how this choice transformed his career once again. After careful consideration, Ken accepted the role. Ken Jennings stepped into the role of Jeopardy! Host with both reverence for what came before and confidence in what he could bring to the position. He understood that he wasn't replacing Alex Trebek. No one could. Instead, he was creating his own version of the role that honored Alex's legacy while bringing his own personality and perspective to the show. As a host, Ken brought something different to Jeopardy! Than Alex had. He was younger, more digitally savvy, and more connected to modern culture. He understood social media and how to engage with audiences beyond the television screen. He could relate to younger viewers who might not have watched the show when Alex was hosting. At the same time, Ken respected the show's traditions. He understood that Jeopardy! Fans were devoted to the program's format and values. They loved the show because it celebrated intelligence, knowledge, and curiosity. Ken recognized that his job was to protect those core elements while modernizing the presentation. His hosting performance was well received. Critics noted that he brought energy and warmth to the show. Longtime fans appreciated his knowledge and genuine enthusiasm for the material. Viewers connected with his humor and authenticity. Ken wasn't trying to be Alex Trebek. He was being Ken Jennings, and that was exactly what the show needed. Of course, not everyone was happy with Ken's appointment. Some longtime viewers felt strongly that someone else should have been chosen. Some criticized his hosting style or his appearance or his jokes. Once again, Ken found himself dealing with criticism and scrutiny. But this time, Ken handled it differently. He had lived through the experience of sudden fame before. He understood how to deal with public criticism. He knew that not everyone would like him or agree with his choices. And that was okay. He focused on doing his job well and connected with the audience that appreciated what he was doing. Ken also remained humble about his role. He didn't act like hosting Jeopardy! Was his ultimate achievement. He saw it as part of a larger career that included many different projects and opportunities. This perspective helped him maintain balance and avoid the trap of letting a single role define his entire identity. He continued working on other projects alongside hosting Jeopardy. He kept producing his podcasts. He continued writing. He maintained his consultant work. By diversifying his career, Ken ensured that he wasn't dependent on any single opportunity. This made him more secure in his career and more fulfilled in his work. As Ken settled into his role as host, he began to realize the scope of his influence. His journey, from unknown trivia enthusiast to champion to celebrity to host, had inspired millions of people. He received messages from viewers who were encouraged by his story. Teachers used his example to inspire students. Parents pointed to Ken as an example of how knowledge and curiosity could lead to success. Ken also influenced how trivia and intellectual competition were perceived in popular culture. Before Ken's winning streak, game shows were often seen as entertainment that didn't require serious intellectual engagement. Ken changed that perception. He showed that trivia competition could be serious, meaningful, and worthy of genuine interest. Young people started caring more about knowledge and learning, partly because Ken Jennings made it cool. Trivia clubs and competitions grew in popularity. Schools started trivia programs. Colleges promoted their own trivia teams. The entire landscape of intellectual competition in America was influenced, at least in part, by Ken's success and visibility. Ken also became an advocate for education and lifelong learning. He used his platform to emphasize the value of curiosity and knowledge. He participated in educational initiatives. He supported programs that encouraged young people to develop their intellectual skills. He showed that being smart wasn't something to hide or be ashamed of. It was something to celebrate. Ken Jennings' story shows that success isn't always straightforward, but curiosity and persistence can transform your life. Like this video if his journey inspired you, and subscribe for more stories about how people overcame challenges and built incredible careers. What aspect of Ken's story resonated most with you? Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you in the next video. Looking back at Ken Jennings' journey, several themes emerge. First, success is complicated. Winning 75 games on Jeopardy should have been the best thing that ever happened to Ken, and in many ways, it was, but it also created challenges, pressures, and difficulties that he had to navigate carefully. Second, reinvention is necessary. Ken didn't stay frozen in the moment of his greatest achievement. He evolved, changed, and explored new opportunities. He grew as a person and as a professional. This ability to reinvent himself was essential to his long-term success and happiness. Third, identity matters. Ken learned that he was more than his greatest achievement. He was a writer, a podcaster, a consultant, a mentor, and eventually a host. His multifaceted identity made him a more interesting and complete person than if he'd been defined solely by his Jeopardy championship. Fourth, humility is powerful. Ken's humble demeanor, both during his winning streak and after, made him beloved by audiences. He never acted superior. He never bragged. He remained genuine and authentic even as he became famous. This authenticity resonated with people. Fifth, persistence and adaptability are crucial for long-term success. Ken didn't give up when his initial moment of fame began to fade. He adapted to changing circumstances. He explored new opportunities. He remained relevant by continuing to evolve. In today's digital age, Ken Jennings has leveraged social media and online platforms to maintain and expand his influence. He's active on platforms like Twitter and Instagram, where he engages directly with fans and shares interesting trivia facts. His online presence keeps him relevant with younger audiences who might not watch Jeopardy on traditional television. Ken has also embraced emerging digital media. He works with YouTube creators. He participates in online trivia events. He uses digital platforms to reach audiences worldwide. This adaptability to new media has ensured that his relevance hasn't diminished in an era of rapid technological change. His podcast continues to attract listeners who appreciate his perspective and knowledge. His social media following has grown significantly. He remains one of the most recognizable and respected figures in the trivia and game show world. But more importantly, he's become respected as a media personality, author, and public intellectual, not just as the guy who won 75 games. Today, Ken Jennings continues to work on various projects. He hosts Jeopardy, He produces digital content. He writes. He mentors younger people interested in trivia and media. He participates in special tournaments and events. He speaks about education and the value of knowledge. Ken's story isn't finished. He continues to evolve and explore new opportunities. He remains curious about the world, just as he was when he first appeared on Jeopardy. In 2004, that curiosity, that genuine love of learning, is what has driven his entire career. His journey from unknown software engineer to television champion to media personality demonstrates an important truth. Your greatest achievement isn't necessarily your end goal. It's often just the beginning of a longer journey. What matters is how you handle success, how you adapt to change, and how you continue growth throughout your life. Ken Jennings' legacy will ultimately be measured not by a 75-game winning streak, impressive as that is, but by what he's done since. He's shown that intelligence, curiosity, and humility can take you far in life. He's demonstrated that reinvention is possible at any stage of your career. He's proven that you can succeed on your own terms, even when the world is watching and judging. The real story of Ken Jennings isn't about winning at Jeopardy. It's about everything that came after. The pressure, the challenges, the reinvention, and the growth. It's about a person who could have been defined by a single achievement, but chose instead to build a multifaceted career and life. It's about someone who remained true to his values and authentic to himself, even in the face of intense scrutiny and changing circumstances. Ken Jennings reminds us that success is a journey, not a destination. It's not about reaching the peak. It's about what you do once you're there. It's about continuing to learn, to grow, and to evolve. It's about staying curious about the world and your place in it. As Ken continues to host Jeopardy and work on new projects, his story continues to unfold. The best chapters of his life might still be ahead of him. And that's what makes his journey so inspiring. He's proven that reinvention, growth, and success are possible at any age, in any circumstance, if you remain committed to curiosity, authenticity, and continuous improvement.